But he's a man who just 1 year ago had a lot of uncertainties in his mind about his own ability and exactly what he was capable of doing. That same individual today is now full of confidence, experience, and all the ability needed to fully be the captain of his own ship. Plus, he's also showing by example he can do what he teaches. Recently, he just walked away with winning the Mexico trip, the last national contest, had a best month in business in Sanders month, with 193 sales, his best month ever, won the Kentucky Derby trip. And without further ado, let's give Steve Sanders a real big hand.
people because you are all the people that were out there on the carpet for the last 90 days and made things happen. You brought in the town scouts and the sales, and did the registering, and the demonstrating, and all the nitty-gritty work. Let's have a hand for our winners. All right. Did y'all wake up in that rainstorm last night? I had a hard time sleeping last night myself, and it's not because I was going to get up here to the mic, because I'm getting to where I enjoy this more and more. I really do. When I first met Don Van Leeuwen, I was afraid to lead a group in silent prayer. But last night, I don't know, so there was somebody pounding on my door, pounding about 3 o'clock in the morning. I didn't know what was going on. So I tried to ignore it and put the pillow over my head. And it pounded and pounded, kept going, some girl. Finally had to get up and let her out. You know, Henry mentioned it when we came, Tony and I were just in Mexico, because we did win that trip from Rex Air. If you all ever go on Rex Air trip, let me tell you, they are sensational, and they treat you like a king and a queen. And it was a good time. But I did get a little of that stuff called Montezuma's Revenge. Have you ever heard of that? You heard of it? I got 3 people in my group tonight that woke up this morning with a disease called Jack Daniels revenge. I tell you though, it's great to be with winners, and you all have got to be doing some things right, or you wouldn't be here. The only thing I'd like to do is encourage everybody to bring a talent scout with them to Padre Island. Let me just take a second to put in a plug, because I've been to Padre Island, and it is terrific. And we're going to New Radisson Resort. Ed is a gentleman who's been in the Rex Air Rainbow business for about 45 years. We'll be there. I'm looking forward to seeing him. Don't miss it, and I understand we're flying the Fall Guys in the Gallant. There too. Sandy called me and said, Steve, I'm going over to Utah, and I'm going to be in Salt Lake for 3 or 4 days at a new deal we're cooking out. We're calling it a Pacesetter meeting. And he said, I was wondering if maybe you could join me up there. And I said, well, yeah, I'd love to do it. And he said, what about David Tanner, your buddy? You're running around again. Why don't you bring David with you? I said, well, I would sure love to do that, but how am I going to afford the airfare? You know, we weren't making a whole lot of money at that time. He said, don't worry about it. I'll send it to you. Send you a couple of airline tickets. And I said, well, that is super. I said, what are we going to do about a place to stay when we get to Salt Lake? He said, I already got your room. So, come on over. I said, well, okay. So we went to Dean Cox, who's the man I was working for. We convinced him that we had an opportunity to be around the best salesman in America, and that we could learn an awful lot, and that we'd be able to go out and promote skiing a whole lot better if we went over there for 4 days. So we convinced him of that. And I had the privilege of meeting some people over there. Kent Walton, Jeff Godfrey was, I recall, running around putting up posters on that trip. That's a true story. Yeah. And Sandy had the flu that night, and I was waiting to get my opportunity to spend some time with my dad. And after he had had all those meetings and was very, very tired, he managed to rally himself to speak to David and I and about life and about saving money and working hard and all those kind of things. And when he was there, they had a D3, of course, at the time, and he said something that struck me very funny. And what he did is he took a rainbow, a D3, out of the rainbow box, top of the rainbow box, and he said, "Now boys, to me, the rainbow is the thing of beauty." And I thought that that was a silly thing to say about a vacuum cleaner in 1980. But I thought it was very nice too, and it did a good job as a vacuum cleaner. And I didn't have any idea what he was talking about. And about 5 years ago, well, David Tanner and I, we would travel for a number of years after that, going skiing, and whenever we would see something that struck us as odd or funny, we would say, "Now, Dave, that is a thing of beauty." Well, folks, about 4 or 5 years ago, I had a chance to see a rainbow demonstration and go to work with Bill Holden, and I started going out and demonstrating this machine. And lo and behold, on my third demonstration, somebody did jump up and buy one, which scared me to death. I couldn't hardly believe it. And sold a lot of them since then. And I thought to myself about that time, that's a pretty nice machine. It really is a nice machine. And then I started following Randy around on the corporate staff for a number of months. And Tony and I started doing a little bit better financially. And I said to myself, that is a very handsome machine. That's really nice. And so here about 3 years ago, I started with myself and one other fellow going down the street in Denver selling rainbows. Randy came in and helped me, and people just started coming in from everywhere that wanted to sell this machine. And I started doing again better financially. Tony and I bought a house and a new house and a nice car and a few things. And I thought, that is a gorgeous machine. I'm really starting to like it, but I can't. Well, in the 3 years that I've been a distributor, I have seen this machine start to change people's lives. And I've seen people coming in, and I've seen Norman Payne, who was driving a taxi for about $200 or $150 a week, raising the son all on his own. And I saw it change his life and the lives of many people. And I've seen people reaching their potential and bringing out the stronger characteristics in life, the powerful, the pure, the productive things that make people beautiful. And I can tell you all very sincerely that now, indeed, the rainbow is a thing of beauty. We're going to get to hear from a very beautiful man tonight, J.B. Sanders, and I'm not suggesting that you all listen to him just because he sold 27 consecutive colonelships in a row. I'm not asking you to listen to J.B. Sanders because he had 3 months of 50 or more personal sales. I'm not asking you to listen to him because he had 365 sales in 1 year, personals. Because in 1 month, he had 79 personal sales. He started as a dealer. He became a field supervisor, an assistant manager, a manager, and a distributor down in Richmond, Virginia, which is where my memory in life began. I was about 2 or 3 years old when we were living in Richmond, and my dad was a distributor there. And within 6 months to a year, he had that organization up where they sold 1,336 rainbows in 1954. I wouldn't listen to J.B. Sanders just because when he became a regional, he was the top regional in America, 11 out of 12 months. And then became the national sales manager of Rexair, the vice president of Rexair, because he became president, was president of this company for 28 years, became the owner, But I would listen to Sandy Sanders because I know that he cares about each and every one of you in the Rainbow family. So at this time, please help me welcome the Chairman of the Board and Chief Executive Officer of Brexair and my dad, Dave B. Sanders.
I'm glad I didn't get you in this any sooner. I wouldn't have lasted that long as president. I would think. He likes it up here. Frankly, I didn't know where he was going with that story, but Steve, you did a good job. And in listening to Steve about all of this, I kind of had the feeling sitting there that there was a very slight possibility that he was a little bit opinionated about all this. I don't know, basically it was only not imagination. But I appreciate the kind words nevertheless, Steve. And I've been at this long enough to know that introductions are a whole lot like perfume. They smell really good, but as long as you don't take them internally, it won't hurt you. And also, that you have to be careful about listening to that because sometimes you start to think it's true. And I also learned one other thing, and that is that the bigger your head gets, when you listen to those introductions, the easier it is for somebody to fill your shoes. And I know a lot of people that make that mistake. Matter of fact, I was sitting there thinking, and I think maybe, Steve, I told you this story before. A few months ago, near where Margaret and I live, they opened a little restaurant called the Penny Arcade. And we decided to go there one night and have dinner. And it's one of these little, they had a place where you could go in for a penny that had all those old-fashioned games that you could look at pictures and slides, and one of those things that had a claw, you know, for a penny you could try to get a prize, and all of that kind of stuff. And they had an old-fashioned white penny scale, where with a penny, it'd show your weight and you get your fortune told all at the same time. And a little card would come out with the weight of fortune on it. So I got up to the scale and got on it, watching for it went to see how much I had gained. And Margaret got the card when it popped out. And she started reading the card. And my fortune said, "You are a very courageous individual with a tremendous amount of intellect. And you have fantastic appeal to the opposite sex." And Margaret looked at it a little longer, and she said, "And they got your weight wrong, too." Sometimes, it only takes a minute, you know, for somebody to straighten you right out. Get back down to earth. But I appreciate, Steve, the good job that you did there, son. And I'd like to say publicly about Steve something that I have said to him of late. And that is that I'm very, very proud of what Steve has done. Some of you are not aware. You know, I was a little reluctant to push him too hard. Because when you have the president of the company as your father, you carry a horrible handicap when you try to do something in the business. I'm tickled to death that Steve is learning very, very fast. And I want to stand up here on my hind legs in front of God and everybody and say that my own opinion is that the time is not too far distant when Steve is going to match his wits with the best there is in the rainbow business, Steve. Anyway, I want to say one other thing again, so all of you will have a better understanding. And that is, as my son, Steve, has a pretty heavy handicap. It's very, very difficult for me to do for Steve what I do for others easily without ever thinking about it. Because someone would think, you know, that I was favoring him. And Steve knows that he has to stand on his own hind legs. That's the only way a dam. But nevertheless, he has me as his primary handicap. He carries me as a bucket of sand every day when he gets up to start out. That isn't fair, but life is never meant to be fair. It's like golf, you know, every time I play I do something different. And life is a lot like that, not always fair. But I don't have any reservations or concerns that Steve will handle it, whatever it may be. Now, it is a real pleasure for me to be here in Nashville. And it's also a lot of fun. I really thoroughly enjoy this get-together down here. You know, you're such a great group of people. It's easy for me. I can totally relax with you. You know, if I want to spit on the floor, nobody's going to say anything to me about it. You know, one of those types of deals. It's a lot of fun to be here. In addition to that, as Steve said, it's great to be anywhere with people who are doing well, who are winners. And you hear that said, but you don't really understand what it means until you work in the kind of job that I get. A lot of my time is spent traveling around the country talking to people out of nonsensical stuff, giving them blood transfusions and everything else. And when I have a chance to give a group like this, it's really, really good for me. It inspires me and it pleases me. But, unfortunately, it falls my lot to tell you that what I know, because of all the years of the vantage ground that I occupy, what I know more than any of you is that what you have done in Rainbow is not what you can do. And what you are now is, by no stretch of the imagination, what all of you can be. It reminds me of an incident that happened many years ago in New York. There's a gorgeous restaurant up there called Mama Leone's. I don't know if any of you ever ate in that restaurant before when I was there, but I used to go there a lot. This fella went in one day, dressed to the teeth, formal, beautiful tie and everything. And the maitre d' gave him a nice table, and they sat down and had a 9-course dinner. When he finished, he called the head waiter over and he said, "Son, do you remember me?" And the waiter looked him over and he said, "No, sir." He said, "I'm afraid I don't." He said, "Well, I was in here 1 year ago about, and had dinner. And when I finished, I didn't have the money to pay for it. And you, sir, you threw me right out the front door on the street." And the waiter said, "Well, sir," he said, I'm really sorry, you know, about that. "Is there anything I can do for you?" The fellow said, "Yes." He says, "I'm afraid I'm going to have to trouble you again." Now, the point is that I'm sure you get tired of me talking to you about doing more. But I know it's in you, and I know it's possible. And that's my responsibility. I want to pat you on the back, but not so hard that you think you've done everything you can do. My true purpose here this evening, and my ambition and my goal and my genuine desire is to stand up here and say something intelligent that will cause you as individuals to seek higher plateaus and higher levels of achievement. Because I know you can do it. I heard a story about a fellow down in Kentucky who was a little wide between the ears. And the teacher was trying to get addition over to him. And she said, "Willie, if I lay 2 eggs on this end of the table and I lay 2 more on this end, how many eggs will I have?" The little boy said, "Teacher, I don't think you can do it." Now, contrary to that little boy, see, I think you can do it, okay? And I'm going to do everything I can to get you to measure up, okay, for the opportunity this year with emphasis on the word up. A little town near where Steve was born called Whitesville, Kentucky. There was a minister that I heard preach a sermon one Sunday morning. And when he got up in the pulpit, his prayer out loud was, "Lord, fill my mouth with worthwhile stuff and nudge me when I've said enough." Now that's sort of what I would like to say to you. I want to say something that will help you do a better job and to realize the true opportunity for all of you in Rainbow, which you still have not achieved. The real opportunity that I know this year for you is still going a-begging for practically everybody in this room. And I know if I can get you you to think about that a little bit. When Rainbow people start to think, they start to make progress and go forward. And I want to talk to you about some problems and difficulties that all of us have. And try to tell you about those lemons that we deal with. And how you can make those lemons into lemonade. That is really what my purpose is. And before I get into that, however, I want to do one other thing. And that is to stand up here again and say to you that Don Van Leeuwen is a person who is unique in Rainbow. And he is an individual for whom I have fantastic admiration and respect. And I have, over the last few years, developed a great deal of affection for both Don Van Leeuwen and for Bunny. I thought Freiberg did a very good job yesterday of making statements about what Don Van Leeuwen is and what he has meant to this organization. If I have ever met a man who has his act together and who understands what it takes to be successful in this business, it is Don. He really knows how to help you get the job done. And he works diligently all the time, many times behind the scenes that you folks are not aware of, to help you be successful. And if you will give him your cooperation, as well as your attention when he is talking to you about how to get it done, he knows how to teach you how to do it. And I think one of the greatest assets he has is Bunny, and it is indicative of how smart the man is to get a good-looking gal like that who works like blazes and he don't pay her a dime. He is a good guy. And it is with the support and the assistance of all individual distributors who were introduced here yesterday, and all of their key people, that have brought this organization to a plateau that is second to none in the entire Rainbow realm throughout the world. And I'd like to say, before I get down to the meat of the coconut, that my opinion is, and I told Don this today when he and I went over to Dr. Andrew Self had lunch, that I think the time is awfully close here when a distributor in this organization will do 1,000 to 1,200 sales, and sometime before the next 15 or 16 months is over, someone in this organization is going to do 1,500. And I think that before 1989 is out, you will hit the 4,000 plateau. And sometime, maybe before the middle of 1990, this organization will produce 5,000 sales a month. And I'm not telling you that just to blow you smoke. Because as I told Don today when we were having lunch, I can write that on a piece of paper and get somebody to notarize it. He can't take it back to San Antonio and swap it for a loaf of bread. But nevertheless, I really believe it is going to happen. Now, what I want to talk to you about, getting back to the lemons and the lemonade, I am down here to do this because Don Van Leeuwen asked me to discuss this particular subject with you. It is a subject, and it is a matter upon which all of us have a sizable need to improve. And all of us can improve. And the wonderful thing is, if we can do a better job of what I want to talk to you about tonight, the results that each and every one of us can achieve are fantastically rewarding once you learn how to do this. And then you have a better chance to step forward in your climb up to what your real potential is in the business. Normally, when I come to something like this, I try to get up and make a speech. But this time, what I'm going to do is just make a presentation. Now, I don't know if you know the difference between the two or not, but a speech generally is supposed to be inspirational. And what you get done when you inspire people is temporary. It doesn't last. It's like vaccination. You got to do it about every other week. But a presentation has as its purpose to be educational and informative. And it has a much better opportunity to be permanent and last a longer period of time. So if I don't jump up and down here like a jumping bean, it is because I'm not here tonight to necessarily inspire you. I'm here to inform you about something that I think will do you a tremendous amount of good. Now, the thought or the foundation upon which I want to discuss these things is this. I'm 67 years old, and during that period of time in this business, I've had everything but leprosy. And I'm not real sure that I haven't had a couple of touches with that along the way somewhere. I've done everything wrong that you can do, and a few things right. I've done a lot of things thinking about this business and a lot of reading about it. And I've had tremendous opportunities in the number of personalities and the people that I have been exposed to. Even a moron is going to learn a little something with as many miles as I have on me. And here is something that I know, and that is this. There is no individual in this room who was created to be mediocre. It is not your destiny or mine to be ordinary, to be poor, or to be unhappy. Generally, those are all self-inflicted wounds. That is not why we were put here. And I know that what many of you, 2 or 3, 4 years ago, thought were impossible, soon learned that it was not only possible, but probable. And that happens to us in this business. So what I'm going to try to do is to help you avoid the quicksand of thinking in mediocre terms or producing in mediocre amounts. Not that that's what you're doing. But most important is to try to help you prevent from falling short of the mark and doing what you can do. Now, the subject that I want to talk to you about is one and one only. And it is something that is a very, very unique asset, but very valuable asset that everyone in this room has. You may not even be aware of it. And the interesting thing is that every one of you have it in the very exact same amount. However, it has strange peculiarities. It is an asset you cannot store up. Like a squirrel stores up nuts for the winter, or a bear stores up fat. It cannot be saved from one day to the next like money. When it is gone forever. And it slips through your fingers and mine and goes over the dam and mixes with the waters of what might have been, or could have been. Like Old Dog Tray in that song, it never returns again. I learned that you cannot get more of it, regardless of the intensity or the persuasiveness of your pleas or your prayers. You can't do anything to get more. Now, I'm confident by this point in time, all of you know what I'm talking about. You've guessed. The subject or the asset to which I allude, wish to discuss with you, is your time. And it is an area based upon a great deal of exposure and experience where we have fantastic abuse and waste. You have no idea what it amounts to. I'll tell you a story about Steve that maybe I shouldn't tell you. But when Steve, it's a true story, when he was about 16, I sat down with him one day in the pantry room. I said, Steve, have you thought about what you're going to do when you get out of school? Steve looked out through the bay window in the pantry room in the backyard, thought for a minute, turned around and said, well, Dad, I think when I finish school, I'm going to retire. That's a true story. Frankly, it upset me a little bit, but I knew whose money he was thinking about retiring. The reason I bear mine and Steve's soul, mostly his, is to make a point. I'm going to make 5 quick points to you, but the first one is, I want to make it in a very kindly and courteous and considerate manner. And make this observation. We have well over 6,000 people in Rainbow today. And while many of you may not be aware of this, and for sure none of you have made any kind of a formal announcement, a great many of you are semi-retired. And you don't even realize it. Now, I'm not saying that to shake you up or make you mad. It is a fact. If we want to talk in terms of how much time do you spend doing productive work vis-a-vis somebody that is retired. I'll tell you frankly, I know a lot of people, if they were paid by the hour in this business for only the constructive work that they do, instead of by commission, many of us would be in serious economic straits right this minute. I'm serious about that. We have people in this business part-time who want to get full-time results and get paid full-time money, and it just isn't in the bag. I'm talking about. That's point number one. Most of us are semi-retired and we don't even know it. Second point, real success and happiness is never a result of luck or happenstance, something we all know. Success and happiness is purely a product of two things. Number one, the ability that you have, your knowledge, and the intensity or the degree to which you apply your ability. To put it in another term that's more simple, it's how you use your time to apply what you know that makes you what you are regarding success and in many times happiness. Because laziness or poor use of time is never a tool that makes you happy. I have never seen anyone happy that was not a person that knew how to apply their time properly. The point that I want to make to you is the maximum application of ability and knowledge of your knowledge demands good management of time. How many of you remember in school the story about the rabbit and the turtle? Okay. I pose the question to you, which is faster, the rabbit or the turtle? And the answer is the rabbit. But I don't know if you remember, the rabbit got beat. Why did he get beat? He was a poor manager of his time. He run like hell for a little while and sat down and rested. And the turtle kept right on going. The turtle knew how to manage his time. And he beat the hell out of that rabbit. And I'll tell you, in my travels all over the country, I see very ordinary people passing guys by that ought to be president of the world. And the reason is fundamental. That individual knows how to get the maximum result with the time that they have available. Some people sit around and let things happen. Other people make things happen. And the difference between the two is time, how they invest their time and how they manage it. So what have I said to you on point two? Success and happiness is a direct result of the efficient application of your ability, which comes about through smart use of your time. You ever heard somebody use the statement, work smart? Work smart means learning how to manage your time well. Point number three, I told you I had 5 of these. Few of you know, and most of you are not as acutely aware as I am, how limited the time that you have is. And as I get older, I realize it even more. Sometimes all of us write checks on our time account and it bounces because we've already used it up. We blew it somehow or another. And we get into that unhappy land called overdrawn in our time bank. I don't know if that's ever happened to you. It happened to me plenty of times. You know, first thing I know, it's midnight. And what happened? I blew it. I wasted it. In my early days in Rainbow, I was a very average reader. I would read on the average of at least an hour to an hour and a half every night before I went to sleep. I'm still quite an average reader. And one day, I used to consume, by the way, sometimes as many as 2 books a week. A few times I'd get interested in some, read all night long, and it never made me tired. I thought it would, but the next day I got up full of vinegar. I was in the library, little library down on 3rd Street in my hometown one time, looking through it, and I saw a book on the shelf that had a title across the front of it, 25,550 days. Now that was, say the least, was intriguing to what they were talking about. So I picked it up and looked in the preface, and what it was relating to was a biblical allotment of life. 70 years and 70 years times 365 equals 25,550 days. So what they were talking about was how many days you have in life. And I read that book, and that thing fired my imagination. Let me tell you a couple of negatives that were in there that shook me up. In there it said, if you are 20 years old right now, and I was a little older than that already, you only got 18,250 days left. Now, frankly, I was afraid to turn the page. You know, maybe it was all over, you follow. If you're 30, you only got 14,600. If you're 40, got 7,300, so forth and so forth. Now the point is that that took up my attention. I began to realize that you don't have all the time in the world. That it is not an endless well, okay? Today we live longer than 70, but the principle is here that tomorrow morning when you wake up, you got one day less than you got right now. And that's something to think about. Now it's not pleasant. It is a positive thought, I admit. But when one considers the alternative of stopping the mothers from passing, it removes all of my anxiety. I'll tell you that right now. I don't worry about nearly as much, but I don't want to quit them, stop them from going back. The point that I'm trying to make to you there as a side issue is that birthdays are not to be avoided, in spite of all the good reasons to the contrary. The point that I wish to make here is that time like water in a desert oasis is limited. We simply do not have an endless supply. There is no way tomorrow that you can get 30 hours out of the day. You get 24, and that is it. Regardless of how you plead or what your needs are. It's limited in its supply. That's something to think about, all right? Now, the point number 4 is this. It is vital, it is crucial, it is important in business as well as in your life. So try, after you wake up to these things, to see that few, if any, of your days are totally wasted. Like money, it is no disgrace to spend them on things that you like or want. Nothing wrong with days off. Nothing wrong with playing golf. Nothing wrong with shopping all afternoon. Nothing wrong with vacations. Nothing wrong with investing them in a career, those types of things. But the point is, do it with deliberation. Don't let it slip through your fingers. And know this one thing, how your days are invested will, without anything that you can do about it, are going to determine what your financial and mental and spiritual growth is. For example, the fly and the bee both stay busy. The fly gets swatted and the bee makes honey. So how you invest your time depends upon what the outcome is going to be. That is the point that I'm trying to get across to. Consider this. If you had a leak in the gas tank of your car, and you look back through the rearview mirror and you see that stream following you. I don't know if you've ever had that experience or not. I have. You're losing 3, 4, 5 gallons a day. What would you do about that? You came to me and said, Sandy, what should I do? How the hell don't worry about that? It's only 5 to 6 gallons a day. I think $6 or $7, forget it. You know, all of a sudden, you'd say, Sandy, all my suspicions about you have been confirmed. You were nuts. Let's go get that mother fixed right now. You wouldn't want that to go on and on and on, would you? What if I were to tell you that practically everybody in this room is blowing a lot more than that every cotton picking day that goes by? You're wasting a whole lot more than 6 or 8 gallons of gas in the time that you have and its value. Okay. What am I trying to say? That time leak is costing many of our people. You want to know about how much time that every person in this room wastes every day? Would you like me to tell you? It's about 30%. You're only investing somewhere in the neighborhood 2/3 of the time that you have in something that is worthwhile. The rest of it is going down the tube, the sewer. How much is that costing you? I can tell you on balance, you're losing anywhere from $100 a week out of that gas tank. Some of you $400, and there are a few in the room who are losing $1,000 a week with that waste. I tell you kids, I think we ought to get it fixed. That's my point. It's stupid to do that. That's nuts. Near Airport Market now, there's I didn't say to stop. I always go the other way, you understand, when I go to work. I don't go past there because I'm afraid they may be recruiting and talent scouting, you know. There's people that stand out there in the summertime along the fence, watching the cars go by. This guy had a flat one day right in front of the place. Backed the car up and took the wheel off and put the lug nuts in the hubcap. He went to the trunk to get the spare out. car, I wondered what the hell is he going to do about that? And one of these people in this insane asylum standing there watching and say, hey, why don't you take the lug nut off of each of the 3 wheels and put that on the ones you lost, and then you can get somewhere and buy some more lug nuts. The guy looked up at the belt behind his and said, you know, I thought, he said, yeah, he said, we're all crazy in here, but we ain't stupid. And the point is that it is stupid to tolerate such awful waste in your life when it isn't even fun to do. Okay. Would you build a bonfire of $20 bills? You ain't that dumb. And yet you're doing it every day. You don't have any idea how little waste of your time adds up. I read a story the other day that the average worker in America, on the job, wastes, even when they're being supervised, at least 1 hour every day. That's 5 hours a week. If you multiply that figure times 52, which I did, it's 260 hours a year that's being wasted by the workers. That's 6.5 work weeks. Month and a half. What could you do better than you do now, or more of what you do now, if all of a sudden you've got 13.5 months a year and everybody else only got 12? You could cut a wide swath. And I tell you, you can do it. You've got the opportunity to get that other month and a half or more if you put a stop to the waste. I can remember any number of times in the early stages when our kids were little that I'd come home for dinner and Margaret said, are you home already? Where did the day go? Have any of you ever made that statement? Let me tell you where it went. You piddled a little here, you piddled a little there, and you piddled a little somewhere else, and the whole damn thing went down the toilet. You didn't do nothing worthwhile all day long. And I finally tried to get that to Margaret's head. How do you solve that problem? And it happens to all of us, okay? The point that I'm saying to you is, so much unnecessary and unneeded wasteful pursuits go on. And I'm going to tell you how to solve that in a minute if you want to. But I want to make the last point, which is number 5, and say to you something that I think I've already convinced you of, and that is that your time has a value. One day I realized what was wrong with me regarding the way I looked at my time. And what was it? It was free. And I don't know about you, but anything that's free, I don't have a whole lot of respect for it. You know, you only think about something when it costs. I have a sneaking suspicion if I bought everybody in here a lottery ticket and gave it to you, probably wouldn't even watch the drawing. You know, you've got to have an equity in it for you to realize its value. Every day you and I get 24 hours to do whatever we want to do with it that doesn't cost us a dime. And human friendly is free means small value. And that's wrong. What if every one of us, when we get up in the morning, either they're going to lock us in the bathroom, and we can't do anything except to go to the John all day or drink the water, okay? And wouldn't that get boring after about a week? As a matter of fact, if we couldn't get out of the bathroom, pretty soon we wouldn't even have to do that anymore, right? What if you had to buy the time that you needed tomorrow? You write a check in the morning before you get out of there. They say, how much do you want today? And let's say the price was $15 an hour. Hell, we can make that kind of money cleaning out waste paper baskets. What would you write a check for, Mark? Think about it. Let's assume you bought 8 hours. You'd have to write a check for $120 at $15 a pop with the hope that you could sell it for at least 30 or 40 or 50. Some of you could sell it for $500. Okay? But if you did that, how would you? And you sat there and goofed away for 1 hour and it cost you $15. The answer is, we would do something about it. Because we would realize absolutely the value of the time. Let me put it in a different term. What would you sell your time for? How much is it worth? If you're sitting there thinking a figure, it says what I'm trying to get across to you. It has a value. And it isn't just the last hour every day or the one in the middle. It is the time your feet hit the floor. And when you start to think about that, you begin to start to do the things that stop the waste. And this is the point that the point I'm worldwide. His name was Army Armstrong. And he and I went to high school together, and I was in the Air Forces. Army had to fly the president and the sales manager of his welding company up to Cincinnati to go to a seminar that was being put on about salesman's time and the management thereof. And they didn't have a co-pilot. So Arnie asked me if I'd go along and fly co-pilot with him on the flight up there, and he said, Sandy, if you'll go with us, we'll pay your expenses. Now, anytime you tell a salesman you'll pay his expenses, he'll go to hell. You know, I mean, whatever it is. I didn't even ask him what we were going to do, and he got that proper line out there about paying my expenses. I said, I'll go, you know. We get up there, and this professor at the University of Cincinnati had spent 3 years doing research on how much was a salesperson's time worth. And the analogy was, how much do they get paid for each hour they spend face-to-face with somebody who can buy their wares? And remember, that was in 1946, and the average salesman was getting paid $20 an hour for every hour they spent with somebody that could buy. Now, to be candid with you, in the early stages of that presentation, I'm sitting in that room absolutely bored to tears. I want that meeting over with so I can get out on the town on that man's money. That's what I want to do. I didn't want to hear that lecture. But when he made that statement about $20 an hour, and at the time was worth that, it hit me right in the head. At that time, I was getting paid $30 a segment, and it took me an hour and a half to put on the show and show how to use it and get out. But that was before aquamates and power nozzles and all those things. You see, I could do it in an hour and a half. And I'm sitting in that audience saying to myself, my goodness, $20 an hour times 8 hours, that's $160 a day. If I work 300 hours a year, take off 65, I got a job worth $50,000 a year. I'm financing my paper through the Central Trust Company. My father's boss is on the board. I know the bank president's only making $18,000. So I'd be 2.5 times as well paid as the president of the bank. I tell you what, folks, you may not believe this. I forgot about the expense account. I wanted to go home and go to work to make that idea come true. How am I going to get 8 hours a day in front of somebody who can buy the machine? Now, frankly, it wasn't easy as I thought. I went home with that high and over resolve. But let me tell you the things that started happening to me. I became conscious of the value of my time. I used to meet a guy every morning at a little Grand Central Hotel that sold curry. I didn't have it. I was down there by myself. The closest guy selling was over 500 miles away. This guy was from Evansville, Indiana. And he and I would sit there and argue for an hour. And it'd get me all charged up and I'd have a cup of coffee. But I realized that that was costing me $20 to sit there with him every morning for 1 hour, so I cut that out right away. I really didn't like the guy that much anyway. Now, anyway, the point is, I started thinking about $20 an hour. If I have a cup of coffee and that takes 15 minutes, that costs me $5. Now, I like coffee, but heck, I don't like it $5 worth. I can't afford that kind of coffee. You know, I wouldn't make that kind of money yet. If I spend 15 minutes or a half hour or an hour visiting with somebody, that's $10 or $20. I wasted. Now, I love all those people, but I can't afford those kind of associates. I got to get away from them. They're too expensive. You understand what I'm saying? I began to think about that. Now, when you start to think, as dumb as I was, you start to do something about it. That's what I'm trying to get you to do. But think about the value of your time. And I tell you what, I started working at that. It was very, very agonizing, but I didn't know what the heck I was doing. And I started reading books and doing all kinds of things to become a better manager of time. But let me tell you what happened. Okay? It was agonizing. But little by little by little by little, I started to get a handle on all this. My sales went from 12 to 20 a month. I bought Margaret a new car. Okay? First new car she ever had. First one I bought her cost about $189. It used more oil than it did gas. When Margaret went down the road, it looked like she was burning soft coal in the thing. You know? But anyhow, the point is, you see, that I started doing good. I was making a lot more money. 6 months after that, my income doubled from what it had been the year before. You know what you know what is surprising is the difference? I never even got sick over that. As a matter of fact, I felt super. I never felt so good in my life. When I started realizing, you see, that I could do better. And it was no big deal. began to have a lot of respect for myself. Instead of going home at night and lying to Margaret about what I did all day, which was hang around at the gas station or something else, you know. I don't know about the rest of you, but when I was working alone, I could not. I'd go out and if my car cut out at 89 miles an hour, you can't drive a car that does that. You got to go get the thing repaired, right? So the point was, I was moving off all day and I didn't realize what was happening. I really honestly thought I was working. So when I began to get a hold of all of this, I started liking the guy whose mug I saw in the mirror every morning. There were times when I didn't respect him too much. And I began to feel good. And my productivity started climbing like mad. When Steve stands up here and tells you that I sold 70-some machines in a month, or 50 or 60, all of you think that's baloney. But I did it, and I never did have to go to the hospital. As strange as that may seem, you know. I felt so good that I used to go to the hospital to make people feel better instead of feeling bad myself. Okay, point was, I learned how to do a better job of managing the hours that the good Lord gave me every day. And I found out how much of a thrill it was to go home and knowing that I had really given both barrels all day, than to go home with a goose egg on achievement. And it changed my whole attitude, my confidence in myself, and what I thought I could achieve. The points that I have made to you then are these. I hope we can all agree quickly that we all have the same amount of time, that the degree of success and happiness is our ability to apply what we know through good use of our time, and that time is a unique commodity. It can't be stored up or saved. If you lose it, it's gone. You can't get it back. And like money, it has a value, and therefore it is worth managing. And what it is worth is to try not so much to do what you do, but to keep from wasting it and to invest it in nonsensical things that don't amount to a hill of beans. Spend it, yes, on what you want, but don't let it slip through your fingers. Okay, now, what were the keys? What did I find and use to avoid all that and to capitalize on the points that I just made to you up there? How did I improve not only my ability, but gradually improve the value of my time? Because the better I learned how to invest it, the more worth it had. And quickly, I used the following techniques. One, I learned something that you have heard a million times. I had Bill Holden in my room this morning, and he and I talked about this subject. I learned what? The first basic principle in becoming a good manager of time is to learn the importance of planning the time that you have. Now that is so simple that nobody in the room will probably do it. You know, you want me to hit you with something that knocks your drawers off. And there is nothing complicated about planning, and yet it is the first and most important step in learning how to use your time better. I followed this simple principle because I learned this by trial and error. What am I going to do? When am I going to do it? And how am I going to do it? Okay. And I planned all that. I decided what, and I decided when, and I decided how. That is what planning is all about. Later on, as I began to have other people working for me, I also then decided who was going to do it, in addition to myself. And I learned this basic principle, that planning a little bit saves a bunch. And most people don't realize that. They say, have you done any plans? Well, I don't have time for that. I've heard that so many times I could throw up. Listen, don't ever, ever, ever get too busy to plan. Because when you invest 5% of your time in planning, you get 50% more out of what's left. Now, what if you can do 50% more starting next week than you've ever done in your life? What is that going to do to your wallet? It's going to change it immensely, believe me. What kind of planning did I do? General planning, I did this. First, I decided what I was going to do all month. What were my goals and objectives for that month? Sales, demonstrations, etc., etc., etc. Sat down and thought through about a month. Then I reduced it to weekly, and then I went to daily. And the daily part is what is important. Because any old dude can sit down and plan it by the week and the month. But when you've got to do it every goddamn day, now it changes everything. Okay. And what I did is I ran across something from a guy from Life and Casualty Insurance Company that sold me my first insurance policy, which, by the way, was $1,000. And he had this route and collection card. I told Don that I dug these out of my old files up underneath the house. This is what I used in Owensboro, Kentucky, 47 years ago. Okay. And all this is a rotten collection card, because he was collecting a debt. Okay. And it has up here the date and the time and who you're going to go see and what are you going to do when you get there. Okay. And it starts out at 8 o'clock in the morning and it goes till 10 o'clock at night. I didn't realize that those dudes worked those kind of hours. But they had to work all day and half the night to collect the money, but a lot of people weren't home at any time. See? And I started using this card. And every night before I went to bed, I'd fill out what I was going to do tomorrow. Now, if you want to see something funny, I'd like to be looking over your shoulder when, if you do this next Monday, how many of you are going to get this thing filled out Sunday night? But if you have to sit down and figure out what you're going to be doing all day Monday, you're going to lie like you had never lied in your life. Because you can't do it. Now believe me, I know. When I told you I went through these agonizing things, this is what I'm talking about. But I used to sit down, okay, at 8 o'clock I'm going to do this, at 8:30 I'm going to make a call back on somebody I sold, because I went back to see 3 times everybody that bought a machine from me. And you'd be surprised, you have plenty of time to do that if you're paying attention. And I used to go in the morning early, because, if I went there early and they'd already bought it, I'm not going to have any trouble. And incidentally, I used to knock on the door about 8:30 to 9. Many times the girls went in their nightgown. But I'm little, and I look harmless, and they just bought a rainbow from me, so they don't care. They're not disturbed by that. And the first question I ask them is, did you get any dirt? They say, Sandy, did I get any dirt? My God! I could have planted a garden in the living room. I didn't even know it. And those people would crank me up, and I was ready to go over the day. That was how I had my sales meeting every day, right? Okay, I get down here at 10 o'clock, and I had to prospect, because registering every day is nothing new from what it was 40-some years ago. If you don't do something about prospecting every day, the first thing you know, the well is dry. Okay? So I set aside time every consecutive day to go out in canvas and try to set up appointments. And I fill this card out. Let me tell you the fallacy that I ran into. Because there's another problem that you have when you start to manage your tenant, and that's making decisions about what you're going to do with it. And sometimes I put down here, register on 14th Street. Now, I'd go out to 14th Street at 10 o'clock, and I couldn't decide where on 14th Street to start registering. And you could very easily make a horrible mistake and start in the wrong area. So I drive all the way from one end of 14th Street to the other, right? Now, that took a half hour. Cost me $10 to take that sightseeing tour. I could have done it cheaper downtown, with somebody who knew what the hell they were doing. Now, the point is that I had to decide to go in in block number 500. And I'd get out there, and then I couldn't decide which side of the street. So I'd go up to the corner and have a cup of coffee and take that over for 15 minutes. Another $5, what the hell? Do you understand what I'm saying? Pretty soon you begin to become conscious of all that stuff. And you started to make the good decisions as to what you're going to do with your time. Now, it took me a year to really get proficient at this. But remember what I told you. Right away, I went from 12 to 18 average. The next 6 months, income doubled. And then pretty soon, I got to be a real pro at managing my time and learning how to make the decisions. And let me tell you another thing. I don't know about you, but when I wake up in the morning, I'm mad. I don't know why I'm mad, but I am. I'm not ready to get it in gear yet. Margaret knows to leave me alone for the first hour every morning, otherwise I'm not going to jump out the window and do something silly, right? I can't get up in the morning and plan what I'm going to do that day. That's the point I'm making with you. Furthermore, if I wake up, I'm not all that eager to get at it yet. See, so I'm going to stall around till at least 11 o'clock on the excuse that something's haywire. And you'd be surprised when you lie to yourself. So I found out I had to do it at night. And then I got 10 hours or 8 hours or 7 hours to lay on my butt before I had to do anything. And at night, I'll obligate myself for all kinds of things tomorrow. But I don't have to do them for another 8 or 10 hours, you understand? But when you wake up in the morning, all you can do is follow the list. I heard a story talking about making decisions about a guy down home was hitchhiking, and he didn't have any money, and he asked the farmer for something to eat. And the farmer said, I'm going to give you anything, I'll give you something to do. So he put this guy to chopping weed out of the tobacco crop. He comes back, and the guy's got it all done. Said, I'll give you something easy to do. So he had some potatoes that they had stacked up. They got wet before they took them to the market. And you know what a wet potato, I mean, they just do wet in the bag. They got rotten. So he piled out 5 bushel of potatoes, took a milk stool and set it down. He said, I want you to take all the good potatoes and put them over here, and all the rotten ones over there, and any that you're not sure about, put them over here. So he goes down to tell Grandma to fix this guy some lunch, and he comes back, and the guy's passed out, laying down to that stool. He runs down to the well, got some water, and sloshed it in this guy's face, and the fellow shook and woke up, and the farmer said, my God, man, what happened? This boy says, Captain, he said, I don't mind all this hard work, but making these damn decisions is killing me. You know, now, the point that I'm trying to make to you is, you see, if you wait until the day that you get up to make the decisions, you have a hard time getting it done. Now, the point that I'm making to you is that planning helped me immensely. Now, I developed other tools. This was one. I had a calendar to plan the month. I had a daily sheet of all the projects like this to get it done with. And in addition to that, I had all kinds of 3x5 cards that popped up when I had to go back and make a telephone call, when I was supposed to make a demonstration, etc., etc., etc. I developed all those tools that helped me become more sophisticated, like you have a demo light, test calls, and so forth to help you in the demo. I had all those supporting tools to help me in becoming a good manager of time. Now, let me just tell you one other thing quickly, and I'll get down here pretty close to the points fast. I taught the Detroit staff how to do this. And we have improved our productivity by nearly 50%. We work every day, every person on the executive staff up there works with what we call a to-do list. And I deliberately have gone in their offices and said, let me see your to-do list for the day. Not that I give a damn. You know, they're big boys, they can manage themselves. I wanted to force them to do it until they got to heaven. And all of a sudden, we are accomplishing miracles. Margaret today looks at my to-do list and she says, Sandy, I don't have any idea how you get as much work done as you do. And the reason is that when I get up, I have the list ready. Now, Bill Holden will tell you, he was in my room around 8 o'clock this morning, and I showed him my to-do list for the day, and it had 16 different projects on it. I had 9 long-distance telephone calls. I had 4 meetings today. I went shopping for cowboy clothes, you know, along with everything else, but I had a list this morning. And there's only one thing on that list that I didn't get done. I was going to go downstairs to get a manicure, but I found out it was a beauty shop, and I'm scared to go in there by myself without Mark with me. Anyhow, the point that I'm making with the kids, that I had that project list. I do it every day. I cannot put a bed tonight until I have my project list for tomorrow. Now, is that a bad habit? No, it is not. It is a good habit. And it is much more important for you to sit down and plan your time than it is for you to get busy and jump on your damn horse and take off in 4 directions and never get to any of them. Now, believe me, I know of which I speak. And what I'm trying to sell you is as easy to get as the measles when you're 3 years old. It isn't difficult to do. And it will revolutionize your ability to get results. And don't forget about that rabbit and that turtle. I want to be the turtle. When the rabbit wakes up in the morning, I am gone. You don't know where I went. And I'm going to have a lot happier life and make a lot more money than that rabbit who sits on his butt and wonders where I went. Do you understand what I'm saying? That's what I'm trying to get across to. Next, I learned how to budget time and allocate it. If you don't allocate time every day to what you're going to do, let me tell you what happens to it. Somebody else gets it. You have all kinds of interruptions all the time. And in addition to that, I set out all my goals. I had things that I wanted to get done every day, and I allocated callbacks and demos and registering, etc., etc. I don't let anybody control my time anymore. I do it myself, and I used to let others do it. I sat down on an airplane, and let me show you one little trick. And most of the time when you sit on an airplane, you sit by some dude that don't have a damn thing to do, and he wants to talk all the way from here to where the hell ever you're going. And I have 2 full-time jobs. I have one full-time in the field and one in Troy. And I don't have time to talk on airplanes. I work. So I got a little trick. As soon as we get through the niceties, you understand, where you going, where you from, what do you do, that only takes about 10 minutes. I say, if you don't mind, sir, you'll have to excuse me, because I got all kinds of work to do. I got a project and a speech that I have to make when I get where I'm going, and he leaves me alone. And you'd be surprised how much work I get done there. Otherwise, but what's he do? He talks about all kinds of crap, about what's going to happen in Germany, and all the places where I don't even know where they are anyway. You know, what good does that do? I'm trying to sell a rainbow. So I don't let anyone else control my time. I set deadlines when I'm going to without works is dead. If you don't have a deadline to your project, you're so much hot air. You're never going to get it done. I avoid waste. How do I avoid waste? The little things. I don't get mad as much as I used to. Because I used to get mad about everything you can think of. I had a temper about that long. I had a few broken jaws, my nose redone a whole number of times because of it, and I learned that wasn't too smart. So I avoided anger, which takes up time. I avoid getting jealous and being vindictive. Have you ever got really ticked off and burned at somebody, and you spend a whole half day saying, if he says this, I'm going to say that, and if he says this, I'm going to say that, and I'm going to do this to him and her, and so forth and so forth and so forth. Have you ever done that? I have. Now, how much did you get paid for that? You know, the trouble with it is that the dude that you got the vindictive against is somewhere sound asleep. He's not even worried about it. Right? So it is a total waste to do those kind of things. The point that I'm saying is, don't take productive time and spend it on non-productive things. Work overtime to finish daily list. Margaret will tell you that many of the times she comes down to the family room where I work at night, saying, what time are you coming to bed? And my answer always is, as soon as I get finished with what I'm doing. You know, and from then on, we don't discuss it anymore. Because she knows that if I went to bed, I couldn't sleep till I get it done. I am a project-oriented dude. And I get a thrill out of scratching them damn things off that paper. It turns me on, you see. Now, that was habit. I was not that way before. And it doesn't make me sick. I don't feel bad. I feel good. And I get a lot of work done and make a bunch of money. What's wrong with that? It's better than the other way, is what I'm trying to tell you. I went from the 12 and 13, as Steve said, up to around 30, 40, 50 sales a month. It wasn't because I had a better demo. It was because I became a better manager of my time. I had a lot of success, and I increased my capacity to get things done. And I became damn good at it. Right now, there isn't a dude in that office that can outwork me. And all of them have me by 30 or 40 years. But I make them tired when they try to follow me all the day. Because I've learned how to manage my time and get things done. Like I said before, it doesn't even make me tired. The point of all of this is you do not have to have a superior talent to rise to the top in Rainbow and make huge sums of money if that is your want. It is good management of your time so you can apply what you know effectively. That's what it's all about. And the tools that you need to do it, I have been discussing with you. You can become a big chief in this teepee. That's what I'm saying. Two guys were out in Colorado in the national park out there in the tent. And they heard a hell of a noise outside the tent. They looked out and there was a huge grizzly going through the garbage. This one guy came back and sat down on the little bed that they had and started putting on his tennis shoes. And his buddy who was in there with him woke up and said, what the hell's the matter? He said, there's a grizzly bear outside. And he said, what are you putting on your shoes for? You can't outrun that damn bear. The guy said, I don't have to outrun that bear. All I've got to outrun is you. The point of all of this is, you don't have to outrun any bears in here. You don't have to be a genius. All you got to do is learn how to work smart. The work smart is managing your time. And to realize that it's not unlimited and that it has a tremendous amount of value. No one in here would go down to the to the hardware store tomorrow and buy a whole bunch of seeds and spend money to get them and go out and plant them in the middle of the highway because you know it wouldn't grow a crop. Okay? You got sense enough to know that. What I'm trying to say is put your time in fertile ground because right now it's laying out there on the concrete and we aren't investing it wisely. Greater success, if you make a firm decision about this and follow those basic principles, which I have tried to explain to you here tonight, you're going to find out it soon becomes very easy and you get a new set of habits. All of you know how hard it is to break a habit, whether it's good or bad. And right now, just like I tell you, as tired as I may be when I go upstairs, you will see me sit down at that table and get out that scratch pad and figure out that project list for tomorrow. Now, it may be just read the paper, but at least when I get up, I know what the hell I'm going to do. so I'm saying to you, if you make a firm decision to start managing your time by the day and by the week and by the month, and develop the tools that I talked to you about to help you do it, you're going to find that it's very easy. Greater success, and equally as important as success, happiness will come your way. And that old story about Rainbow's little bluebird will come and set softly on your shoulder. You'll be the happiest person you've ever saw. This old adage I give you in closing: take time to work, because it is the price of success. Take time to think, because it is the source of power. Take time to play, because that is the secret of youth. Looking at some of you, you're pretty young yet. Too much play. I'm only kidding. Anyway, take time to read. I said that to you earlier, because that is the foundation of wisdom. Take time to be friendly, because that's the real road to happiness. Take time to dream, because that hitches your soul to a star. Take time to love, because I can tell you that is the highest joy that you'll ever have in your life. Take time to laugh, because that's the music of your soul. When a person can laugh, I trust them. When they can't, I get away from them as fast as I can. And best of all, and most important of all, take time to plan. If you do that, you can have all of the rest of these things. And the point that I'm trying to get across to you here is be a bee. Don't fly. Don't let your time get away from you and have nothing happen. Take it and make honey with it. It's very, very easy to do. It's a pleasure for me to be here with all of you, and particularly to be here because we have that band. You know, I would roller skate all the way down here to Detroit to get to So I hope we can do this again one day, and I wish all of you a tremendous amount of success.
Sandy, I'd like to have you come back up here. I'd like to make a presentation to you on behalf of all the people in the Southwest region, the people here and the people that are back home who are taking time for 20% ahead this month. We're ready month of March, our best month of business. We had this Black Southwest Region Standards Month, 1989, which was your best month of business. Presented to J.B., Sandy, and Margaret Sanders. The Best Motivator in Business Award presented in recognition of 43 years, dedication, loyalty, and service and leadership. You both have given of yourselves selflessly, your constant effort to help other people excel. We're greatly loved and appreciated.
Okay, thank you very much. Thanks very much.
Just a couple of shopkeeping notes before we get going. Checkout is tomorrow. There's no activities. Whatever you fly, you go to the facilities and hotels. The club pays for your rooms and all the functions. You're to pay for your own telephone calls, personal items, and restaurant charter. We want to see you at Padre Island. We have a great group that we're going to hear from in a minute. They're going to be there with us. And as the great grocery TV commercial said, bring a friend with you. It's a pleasure now to introduce to you an outstanding group that we've had several times. By the way, there's 2 cash bars going out on either side. But at this point, we'd like to, for a special rainbow show just for you, the winners of the Southwest region, present to you a super group, Full guys and a gal.
Music on your feet. It's the rhythm a joke. That was great. Boy, you know, I love coming to these things. We get so much good material that we can use in others. It's got so many great jokes. I can't believe it. I'd like to know who your writers are, Jenny. We got to get Jack a writer to write something intelligent for him to say. Although that baby thing was intelligent for you. We're the Fall Guys in the Gal, and we do variety in our shows. A lot of different type of stuff. Now, the first song we're going to do for you is a song that was a hit in 1964. Now,
1964, my favorite year. How'd you know? I love that year. LSD was president. There's a lot of things going on that year.
Now, what I like to mention is that some of these things, if we were with you a couple years ago, you might recognize a couple of things that we do. We've had a couple of requests. They were more than requests. They were.
But we're going to finish this show anyway.
There were absolute demands. Certain things that we're going to do. We will. This is one of those things we're going to do. This is a story about a girl who falls in love with a guy on the wrong side of the tracks.
Oh, gee.
Some of you girls know exactly.
Must be from Kentucky.
Some of you girls know exactly what I'm talking about. Now, Stephanie will sing this song. The fellow to her immediate right will play the very important part of a motorcycle. A Harley.
Oh, I love Harleys. Gee, you're 2 for 2. 1964 and a Harley. Go for the gold. Go for the gold.
On my far right, Gary and Tony will be our Harlettes.
I love Harlettes too.
Stephanie Crew, leader of the pack.
She wanna go down there.
There she is, let's ask her.
Stephanie, don't you think we're
She must be great riding with him.
Have you gone back to school today?
By the way, where'd you meet him?
I met him at the candy store. He turned around and smiled at me. You get the picture?
Tracy.
I'm only kidding. It's a nice place, it really is. It's the DuPont.
We got money here, low sales.
A lot of sales. It's the home of the DuPont. Someone once told me that there ain't nothing in Delaware but DuPonts and queers.
Yeah.
And you ain't no DuPont.
I ain't no queer either.
A lot of things, man.
Hey, I've done a lot of weird things in my life, but I ain't no queer.
Just a little bit straight, about a pipe low. Jack's gonna do a pantomime. Jack's gonna do a pantomime.
Boy, that spinach will get to you.
You have spinach?
Whatever that was. It was green, it was moving.
What? Oh, it is now. No, I don't know. Okay. Jack's he's gonna do a pantomime.
Okay.
The voice that you're going to hear is that of Ray Stevens.
Yeah, really?
Ray Stevens, the one that you can't drive the bus by his house. You can't. That's right. If you took that tour, you know it. You can't. He moved. You can't take a bus by his house. He's a weird guy. I can figure it out because the voice of this is Ray Stevens. The face is Jack Williams. This is Along Came Jones.
Dropped down in my easy chair and turned on channel 2. A bad gun swinging in a soft sound was a chasing roast beef soup. Chapter in the old sawmill and said with an evil laugh, "If you don't give me the deed to your ranch, I'll saw you all in half." And then he grabbed it. He tied. He turned on the road. And then along came John. Talking John. Along came Rolling Banger Jones. Pressure came on, so I got up and fixed myself a snack. Should have seen what was going on by the time that I got back. Down in the old abandoned mine, Sweet Sue was having fits. I got her and said, "Give me the deed to your ranch, I'll blow you all to bits." And then he grabbed. He tied her up. He lit the fuse to the And then along came John. Oh, Rockin' John. Talking John. Along came Lonely Banger John. I got so bugged I turned it off and turned on another show. But there was the same old shoot 'em up and the same old rodeo. Salty Sam wasn't trying to stuff Sweet Sue in a burlap sack. He said, "If you don't give me the deed to your ranch, I'll throw you on the railroad track." And then he grabbed. He tied her up. He threw her on the railroad track. The train started running. And then along came slow walking John. Rolling Banger John. Rolling Banger John. Rolling Banger John. Taking a break from all your worries should help a lot. Wouldn't you like to get away? Sometimes you want to know where everybody knows your name. And they're always glad you came. You wanna be where you can see the troubles are all the same. You wanna be where everybody knows your name. He's always on his steady horse, talk to Mr. Ed. People yakety yak the street and waste your time all day. But Mr. Ed will never speak unless he has something to say. Of course, but this will talk to his voice, his horse. You never heard of a talking horse? Well, listen to me.
Why away, let Miller play.
Swans that make our work alright.
Boys like us, we had it made. Don't sweat a day.
How you knew who you were
What the hell, man?
Just so we could use our man like Wyman for a gun.
Didn't need no welfare state.
Everybody pulled his weight.
G.I. lost our and praise.
Don't sweat a day.